My name is Alex. I'm 49 years old. 4 years ago, I married Sarah. Small woman, steady smile. The kind that wears patience like perfume. She came with a son, Trevor, then 15, now 19. He was polite in front of guests, quiet when we were alone, always somewhere else mentally. I thought I could reach him if I just gave it time. Turns out, time isn't what makes people family. Pain does, and respect, and silence, the wrong kind, it kills all three. We lived just outside Seattle. Split-level home. Gray siding, black trim. Nothing fancy, but clean, secure. That was my job, to keep the roof solid and the fridge full. I never missed a payment. Not rent, not utilities, not insurance. I covered the cost of Trevor's braces, his gym membership, his summer music camp, even the private tutor Sarah swore would finally get his grades up. His biological dad, Brian, was a phantom, a seasonal gust. He blew in during Christmas sometimes, maybe a phone call on Trevor's birthday. Brought gifts, expensive, performative, then vanished like smoke. But Trevor clung to those visits like they were proof of something. Proof that blood still mattered. That love didn't need to be earned. And me? I didn't try to replace anyone. That was never my goal. I just wanted a life with them. Stability. A quiet rhythm where I gave what I had, and maybe, eventually, it would be enough. But the thing about blended families is this. Someone is always outside the circle. And no one tells you when you've been voted out. Started small, like all things do. Trevor wouldn't look me in the eye when I asked him about school. Sarah would say, "He's just moody." I thought maybe she was right. I remembered being a teenager. You build walls because everything feels too loud. I let it slide. Until one afternoon, Trevor walked into the kitchen, popped open a soda, and said with zero emotion, "Brian's coming to stay for a few days." He didn't ask. He informed. I looked up from my laptop. "Oh," I asked. "Yeah. He needs a place while his apartment's being painted or something." "Okay," I said. Just that. No protest. No fight. But I felt it, that shift. A door opening, and I wasn't on the other side of it. Brian showed up that evening. Smelled like cologne and road dust. He hugged Trevor tight, called him champ, kissed Sarah's cheek with just enough distance to avoid scandal. Then he looked at me and said, "Hey man." Like we were old drinking buddies instead of opposite ends of a war neither of us declared. The first night I said nothing. Let him sit on my couch. Let him eat the dinner I'd paid for. Let him watch TV while I cleaned the kitchen alone. He didn't leave. Day 2, same routine. Day 3, I came home to find him in my chair, feet up, shoes off, telling Trevor that he needed to stop, slacking off in math. As if he'd earned the right to critique anything. I stood in the doorway and just watched. Sarah said nothing. Trevor laughed at something his dad said and looked happier than I'd seen him in weeks. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Then came the sentence. Simple, brutal, spoken like scripture. We were all in the kitchen. Brian was telling some story from when Trevor was a kid. Remember that camping trip? The one with the bear noises? And Trevor cut in, smiling, full of light, and said, "He's more family than you'll ever be." He said it to me, direct, no irony, no shame. I froze. Everything stopped. The smell of Sarah's cooking, the sound of the dishwasher humming behind me, the flicker of the overhead light. All of it went still. I looked at him, then at Sarah, waiting, begging her with my eyes to say something, to correct it, to defend me. She didn't. She stared at the floor, hands shaking slightly as she stirred the pot on the stove. Then she said it, soft, almost apologetic. "It's just temporary." And in that moment I understood everything. All of it. 4 years of groceries. 4 years of bills. 4 years of rides, support, presence. Gone. Erased with one sentence. Not from Trevor. From her. Because silence is a kind of agreement. And she signed the contract with her eyes on the tile floor. I walked out of the kitchen, down the hallway, into the bedroom, opened the bottom drawer of the nightstand, pulled out the lease agreement I had saved, walked back to the living room. Trevor was scrolling his phone. Brian was laughing at something on TV. I laid the lease down in front of Trevor. Not dramatic, just deliberate. You want to decide whose family? I said. Then you deal with this. He looked up, confused, then dismissive. I didn't explain, didn't need to. I turned, walked out the door, and didn't come back. At first, they played pretend. Sarah texted a few times the next morning. Stiff, polite, like a woman talking to a plumber who hadn't shown up. I wish you'd stayed to talk. He's just a teenager. You know how they get. Brian's only here a couple more days. It's not permanent. Not once did she say I was missed. Not once did she ask why I left. Because she knew. Trevor didn't text. He posted a photo. Brian sitting on the back deck. My deck. Arms spread wide like a king returning to his throne. Trevor beside him, sunglasses on, matching his father's posture. Captioned, blood stays, fake fades. Hundreds of likes. His little echo chamber applauding the return of the deadbeat. The prodigal ghost. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. My fingers hovered over the reply button. Not to fight, to correct, to scream the truth. But I didn't. I closed the app, deleted it off my phone. I didn't need a front row seat to my own erasure. Instead, I watched from the edges. Quiet, patient, like a surgeon watching rot spread under skin. It wouldn't take long. 2 weeks. That's all it took. 14 days after I walked out, the landlord called. I still had my name on the lease. Technically, I was still responsible. Alex? He said, voice brisk. Rent hasn't come through. You planning to wire it late? I shifted in my chair. I moved out. Pause. Well, until that's formal, you're still on the hook. Then call her, I said. Call the woman who let someone else sleep in the bed I paid for. Click. The next day, the utilities followed. Power blinked off around 3 p.m. I know because Sarah texted. Power's out. Do you know anything? I replied. I stopped paying. No answer. Water was next. Then the internet. Sarah tried. I'll give her that. She scrambled, moved money around, probably maxed out her card. But she wasn't used to carrying the weight. That was always my role. For years she got to play peacekeeper. Soft voice, gentle eyes, pretending we were all equals in that house. But we weren't. I was the mule. I was the engine beneath the floorboards. And now the machine was off. Brian, he vanished. Right when things got tight. Trevor posted less. His page went quiet. No more photos. No more declarations of who mattered. Reality had arrived. The first direct contact from Trevor came on a Sunday evening. My phone buzzed. I debated letting it ring. But curiosity won. He didn't say hello. Are you serious? He snapped. You're walking away because I said one sentence? I stayed quiet for a moment. Then, you said I'm not family. That Brian is. You don't get to say that and expect me to keep paying your way. He laughed. Bitter. Ugly. You're acting like a child. No, I said. I'm acting like a man who listened. He cursed under his breath. Then, you think this hurts me? You think you're punishing me? You're just proving what I said. You're not real. I didn't flinch. Then you'll be fine without me. Click. An hour later, Sarah texted. Her tone had changed. This isn't about us. It's about him. He's still a kid. He needs help. I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. The weight of its cowardice made my teeth hurt. So I replied. He decided who counts. Now let that man help him. She didn't respond. That night I slept well. Next morning my neighbor, Mike, from 2 houses down, called. Hey, saw a U-Haul out front your place. Everything okay? I smiled. Better than ever. Because I knew what that meant. Brian was gone. The mess left behind was now fully theirs. No buffer, no mule, and no more pretending. Without me, the house became what it really was. An unstable thing built on borrowed time. I imagined Trevor lighting candles to study. Sarah boiling water for a shower. The kitchen silent except for the arguments that came with stress. Money stress, blame stress, you said he'd help stress. That's what they traded me for. A guest with no spine. A mother who looked at her feet when her child spat venom. They had comfort. Then they chose chaos. And I didn't lift a finger to stop it. A month passed before the first real cracks began to scream. Not whisper, scream. It started with an envelope. A thick one. Yellowed at the edges. Stamped with final notice. It was addressed to me but delivered to the old house. Sarah sent a photo of it, attached to a single text. This is yours. It wasn't. Not anymore. The lease had been in my name. So had the utilities. So had nearly every card used to keep that household breathing. What she was holding wasn't a bill. It was a reminder of how much of their life had depended on me. I didn't reply. I wanted her to feel what dependency sounds like when it hits the wall. The silence of no one coming to fix it. By the end of that week, Trevor's tutoring stopped. The private coach I'd been paying canceled their sessions. His gym pass was deactivated. The world started shrinking around him, one unpaid invoice at a time. He wasn't used to limits. None of them were. Money had been invisible like air. They never saw it, never touched it, just breathed it without thought. Now the air was thinning. Brian, the savior? He disappeared 2 weeks after the lights went out. Some story about needing to get back to work. No address left. No money sent. Just silence. That same familiar male absence that seemed to run in Trevor's bloodline. Sarah left a voicemail the night he drove away. Her voice was tight, trembling, not angry, just confused. Alex, I didn't think it would get this bad. He said he'd help. I thought you'd calm down. You've made your point. Okay? Please call me. But it wasn't about making a point. It was about balance. About gravity. Every act has its weight, and every lie has its price. I didn't call back. The next message came a few days later. More desperate. Trevor's car broke down. He needs to get to work. He's trying, Alex, he really is. I almost laughed. Trying was the word they used when effort came too late. By the third voicemail, her tone had changed completely. I know you're angry, but he's just a boy. Please, Alex, don't let him fail because of this. But I wasn't angry. I'd moved past anger. Anger is energy, something alive. What I felt was cleaner, emptier. The kind of quiet that comes when you finally set down a burden and realize how long it's been crushing you. 2 days later, Trevor showed up at my apartment. It was raining. Seattle rain, soft but relentless. The kind that soaks you without making a sound. I opened the door and there he was. Hoodie clinging to his shoulders. Hair plastered to his forehead. Eyes red, hollow. For a second, I saw the boy I'd once tried to protect. The kid who'd fallen asleep in the back seat on long drives, who'd once asked me to teach him how to tie a tie. Then I remembered the sentence. The one that cut everything clean in half. He's more family than you'll ever be. I stepped aside without a word. He walked in. He stood in the middle of the living room, dripping on the carpet, hands shaking slightly. I just came to talk, he said. Then talk. He looked down, swallowed hard. Things have been rough. Mom's working extra hours. Brian. He stopped himself, caught the irony, forced a bitter laugh. He's gone again. I said nothing, just watched him twist his fingers. He looked up. I shouldn't have said that. What I said to you. I let that hang in the air. Which part? I asked finally. He blinked. You know. Say it. He hesitated. That you're not family. Right? I said. That part. The silence between us grew thick enough to touch. He shifted his weight, trying to fill it. I didn't mean it like that. I was just angry. You know how people say things they don't mean. I shook my head. No. People mean what they say when they're angry. That's when the truth comes out. He winced. You're not going to make this easy, are you? I made it easy for 4 years, I said. Look where it got me. He took a breath, stepped closer. Mom can't cover rent. She tried. The bank's calling. She said maybe you could help just until we figure it out. There it was. The real reason. Not forgiveness. Not regret. Need. I leaned against the table, crossed my arms. You want help from the man you erased. His voice cracked. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You and your mother made sure of it. He rubbed his face, frustrated. You think I don't feel bad? You think I don't know I screwed up? No, I said. I think you only feel bad because life stopped being comfortable. He froze, then whispered, You don't have to be cruel. I'm not being cruel, I said quietly. I'm being consistent. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw it. Not arrogance, not defiance, but understanding. A flicker of it, at least. The realization that the world doesn't reset after you burn a bridge. That sometimes, the ashes are all you get to live in. He left soon after. Didn't slam the door. Didn't curse. Just left. 2 days later, Sarah came. She didn't knock. She used the spare key I hadn't gotten around to taking back. I found her standing in the kitchen, soaked from the rain, arms folded across her chest like she was bracing for judgment. Her eyes were red, rimmed with exhaustion. You've made your point, she said softly. They're suffering. I'm suffering. Are you proud? I poured coffee. You think this was about pride? She didn't answer. I spent 4 years carrying you, I said. Carrying him. Every bill, every repair, every unspoken thing you didn't want to deal with. And when I finally needed someone to stand up for me, you stared at the floor. Her lips trembled. He's just a boy. And you're just a coward, I said. Calm. Not cruel. Just true. She looked like she'd been slapped. You think I didn't feel awful? You think I didn't know what he said was wrong? Yes, I said. Because you didn't stop it. The rain pounded harder against the window. She wiped her eyes, voice breaking. I get it now. I should have said something. I should have told him to stop. You should have told him the truth, I said. That I was the one who kept your lives from falling apart. That love isn't about blood. It's about showing up. She nodded, tears spilling freely now. I know. I do. I didn't want him to hate me too. There it was. The root of it all. Fear. Her loyalty to silence wasn't protection. It was self-preservation. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. He already did. He just aimed it at me first. She looked up at me, eyes pleading. Can't we fix this? I shook my head. You can't fix something you refused to protect. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. She stayed another minute, maybe 2. Then she turned and left. I watched her car disappear down the street, taillights flickering in the rain like dying signals from a ship going under. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't cruel. It was clean, honest. I could finally hear myself think again. Out there, in that dark little house I used to pay for, they were learning what I'd known all along. That the world doesn't owe you comfort just because you're used to having it. That family built on convenience collapses the moment the bill comes due. And the bill had come due. I live in a small apartment now. Not much to look at. 1 bedroom, 2nd floor, off a side street near the highway. No yard, no porch. The floors creak. The walls are thin. Sometimes I hear the neighbor's baby crying at night. The couple upstairs stomping around like elephants. But it's mine. Every bill in my name. Every light I switch on, I paid for. No ghosts here. No fake smiles across dinner tables. No tight-throated silence while a teenager spits in my face and his mother pretends she's deaf. It's quiet. And that quiet is worth more than anything I left behind. Trevor dropped out of college. It wasn't a clean exit. There were threats from the registrar, a suspended student ID, a week where he tried to bluff his way back in with forged payment promises. But the truth came down like snow, slowly at first, then all at once. No money, no seat. That was it. He didn't call me. He tried Brian first. I know because Sarah told me in a voicemail. He's trying to reach his dad, but he won't answer. Of course he wouldn't. Men like Brian don't answer. They appear when it benefits them. When there's applause. When there's a camera in the room and someone else has already paid for the dinner. But when the fridge is empty. When tuition is due. When the car won't start. Silence. Sarah switched jobs. Left her receptionist gig for something in retail. Manager at a clothing store in the mall. Longer hours. Less pay. No benefits. She sounded tired when she told me, like she wanted me to comment, sympathize, offer something. I didn't. She had made her bed. And unlike before, I wasn't there to fluff the pillows. I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved back in with her sister. The house got too expensive. Utilities stacked up again. There was talk of a court summons from the power company. Brian never came back. Not a single visit. No more porch photos. No more barbecues. No more real family captions on social media. He vanished the moment reality showed its teeth. It took less than 2 months for everything to fall apart. I didn't watch with joy. There was no celebration in it for me. No popcorn on the couch, smiling as the castle burned. But I did watch. Not out of revenge. Out of principle. Because I wanted to see what happened when people finally had to live with their own reflection. And they did. I got one last letter from Sarah. A real one, ink on paper. She never was good with confrontation, but writing made it easier, I guess. She said she was sorry. That she should have spoken up that night. That she should have defended me. She wrote, "I see now how much you carried. I see it every day when I can't do it alone." She said Trevor was struggling. That he was angry all the time. That he blames her. That he blames Brian. That some days he blames himself. And finally, she said something I never thought she'd say. "He asked about you. Not for money. Not for help. Just asked how you were." I read that sentence over and over again. It didn't move me. Not the way she hoped it would. It just confirmed something I'd already decided. Regret is not the same as change. He regretted losing the benefits of my presence. The safety. The buffer. The hand reaching into the fire for him every time he got burned. But did he regret who he became? Did he regret saying I wasn't family? Did he regret watching his mother shrink into silence while I waited for someone, anyone, to speak the truth? That she didn't say, and I wasn't about to ask. The letter ended with a question. Simple. Small. Is there a chance we could talk? I folded the paper once. Then again. Slipped it back in the envelope. Placed it in a drawer with old receipts and forgotten keys. And I left it there. Because I didn't owe them closure. I didn't owe them kindness. I owed myself peace. And sometimes, peace looks like walking away from the table and never sitting down again. People always ask me if I'd do it differently. If I'd go back and stay quiet. If I'd let Trevor's words pass like a storm and just wait for him to outgrow the bitterness. But here's the thing. Storms don't build bridges. And children who spit on hands that feed them grow into adults who devour without remorse. I gave them time. For years of time. Time to see me. To hear me. To recognize that family isn't blood. It's behavior. They saw what they wanted to see. Chose who they wanted to love. Declared their loyalties not once, but again and again. With words. With silence. With smirks across the dinner table and eyes that looked through me like I was furniture. So I left. I left the house. I left the role. I left the lie that if you just try hard enough, love will be returned. Now I wake up alone. I drink coffee in silence. I read books that don't get interrupted. I take long walks. I breathe. I exist without tiptoeing. Some would call that sad. I call it earned. Trevor will be fine. Or he won't. That's not my weight anymore. Sarah will keep surviving. She's good at that. And Brian, well, I doubt he remembers the street they lived on. Men like that don't look back. As for me, I stopped trying to rewrite the story. I lived it. I paid for it. And I walked out of it whole. And now I ask you, whoever's reading this, hearing this, judging this, was I wrong? Was I cruel? Was I supposed to keep paying for a seat at a table where I was never really welcome? Would you have endured it? Or would you have done what I did? Listen to the silence. And finally let it answer for itself.